are back with another episode of the 2 to 20 podcast that empowers women how to build, fund, and scale their businesses. I'm Katie Vander Ark, and today we're joined with Madeleine Cohen. She's the founder of Nell Atelier, and we're going to learn all about your business. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We just briefly met, I think a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, but we were introduced via another female founder. And it's been great getting to know you. I know we have a lot of overlap in community in LA and in New York.
Definitely.
And I think kind of probably a lot of shared experiences in building kind of an early stage company. Although yours is in a much different industry than mine. So I'm excited to kind of hear how you took your personal background and like what inspired you to launch your company.
Yeah, of course. So Nell Atelier is the essential edit of wardrobe staples for women below 5'4". I've been in consumer my entire career. I started in a rotational program at Estee Lauder. I then joined Casper, was there pre through post IPO, and then eventually joined Bala, the wrist and ankle weights brand, as chief of staff. Until I had the idea for Nell, which really came out of my own personal necessity. My friends joke with me that it's like the most expensive pair of jeans I've ever bought. Um, but honestly, I was standing in front of my closet one day and I was looking at the 30 pairs of jeans that I owned. I know 30 pairs of jeans sounds like a lot, but I've always been like a fashion girly, beauty girly. Like I love all the things. So I am my own customer. Um, and I was like, wow, I hate all of them. What's up with that? So I Googled best jeans for short girls. I'm 5'1" on a good day. And my options were just super mass market, which is totally fine. It just wasn't analogous to the other brands in my wardrobe. And so I was kind of confused why I was standing like at the cash register ready to swipe my credit card, but I wasn't also going to buy like product that simply didn't fit.
Yeah.
So I decided to build it myself. We started with jeans after everybody told me not to, because jeans are really hard. I'm happy I did, but they were right. Jeans are really hard. It's the second hardest category to fit after swim. No one knows their denim size because
Yeah.
every pair of jeans is different. So it's super, super challenging, but you know, I always tell people like sometimes things are hard for other people and less hard. It doesn't mean that they're hard for you.
Yeah.
This is hard for me, but I'm the gal for the job basically because it's just so close to me. The pain point is so close to me. And so that's honestly how we started the business. 11 months later, the brand was live from the day I had the idea.
I love it. I'm 5'3", so the struggle is real finding any jeans that fit. I almost always buy specific ones that I know might fit, and then I'm always having
Hmm.
them altered. So I personally have an affinity for the product that you're building too. So this is great.
That's sweet. Thank you.
I guess with that being said, it is an interesting niche though. So like if you are building, a brand around jeans that could accommodate maybe shorter people, how does that work for like market sizing? And then how were you thinking of the market that you were actually going after for this company? Because as you said, you are starting with jeans. So I assume you are branching out into kind of building a much larger line, but would love to think about how you're thinking about the initial product and how like the market and then how you plan to kind of expand.
Yeah, totally. So my favorite fun fact is that it's actually half of women. So it's not that niche, even though it is a niche, it's not
Oh,
that niche. Half of women is not niche objectively.
no, no, that's
Um,
very accurate.
so it's actually a lot of people. Obviously we operate in a little bit more of a premium place. Our jeans are 228 to 268, sometimes 278, depending on the style, the wash, the cut. Um, so it's obviously a subset of that, but it's a huge market. It's a huge market with a really engaged customer. We have a
Mhm.
super high repeat rate, so we're actually really focused, obviously, on new customer acquisition, but really on retention. And as a result of that, expanding the assortment, focusing on outfit building. So, what is she wearing with the jeans? And the party line for us from a product perspective is where do we add value from a fit perspective, in addition to like a style trend, quality, premiumization kind of angle? We're looking really for stuff where she would have to alter it if she wasn't buying it from now. So, like for me personally, that's like button down shirts,
Yeah.
That's trousers. Obviously, bottoms are just like so obvious. But jackets are really a pain to deal with. Blazers, suiting, like it's kind of like the limit does not exist. Um, I don't want to kick myself and say we'll never make a t-shirt. We'll probably end up making a t-shirt at some point, but obviously that's not where we're focused for the time being.
Yeah. And can you remind me, are you primarily direct to consumer or are you also going into partnership with other stores?
We're direct to consumer-ish. So obviously we started and launched on our own site. We're on Nordstrom.com,
Yes.
which is awesome and like 20% of our business. And then we have some like high-end specialty stores in key markets. So we have about five, mostly kind of inbound, and we're just now going to start digging into that channel a little bit more. Really focused on wardrobing stores in key markets that we see, like we'll see a halo from our e-com in.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Well, so you were kind of started off alluding to this, but I was going to ask you kind of what you feel like the biggest challenges have been. So, I maybe there's like there could be a multitude of challenges, especially with the product that you're building, like challenges in regards to finding the right product, getting it made, production, merchandising it. That's like one part, and then maybe there's also like the actual running of the company, fundraising. So I don't. There's sort of a lot of different things you could touch on there.
Yeah, there's no shortage of challenges, so I think it's, a meaty question. From a product perspective, just like brass tacks,
Yeah.
um, we make rigid denim mostly. So we have a couple styles that have a little bit of stretch, but the real gap in the market that we identify, basically petites are underserved. They usually are kind of an afterthought. They get like the most basic stretchy black product that you can make for them. And I think where Nell resonates and where we've been able to differentiate ourselves is that we're actually making trendy, rigid denim for short women that's portioned like perfectly,
Yeah.
to the point where like our customers will try on, we'll have pop-ups and whatever, and they're like, I could cry. Like I've never actually put on pants that fit like that straight off the rack. In doing that, rigid denim it's unforgiving from a production standpoint. And denim, like I always try, I mean, I learned this myself. I don't have a fashion background, so obviously I was like learning on the job. If you saw what raw denim looked like and then you saw what a pair of jeans looks like when it's like in the store, you'd be shocked.
Mm.
It's such a like inherently transformative process. It gets washed, it gets dried, it gets washed again, it gets, hand sanded and whatever. So it's like sometimes what goes in doesn't come out the other side exactly how you'd expect. So I would say our biggest challenge has been like sizing consistently across seasons. I think we're finally, I'm crossing my fingers there. But it took a really long time and a lot of trial and error and customer feedback and back and forth and changing things and tweaking and kind of perfecting the product. I wouldn't have done it any differently because I think on the flip side of that, you can't like wait at some point you have to just go and do it and launch it and put it out there into the world and then just iterate really quickly.
Mhm.
Like if you get the same, if 10 people say like it's too big in the waist, like it's too big in the waist and you have to go and you have to fix it like as quickly as possible. Um, but I would prefer to do that and be transparent with my customers and have those conversations and invite that dialogue than, if I hadn't, I'd still be like sitting on a pre-launch company
Yeah.
2 years later.
I guess the nice part about that is, whereas like with like B2B SaaS, like when we're trying to get feedback from customers, we're having to like have them spend time working on the software and then we set up Q&As and then we're, going through the process of getting feedback on the product and maybe it's multiple members from their team. What I like about that is like it's direct feedback immediate. Like they get the jeans, they try them on, they either fit or they don't.
Oh,
And
they definitely tell us right away. We don't have to ask actually.
yeah, you're not worried about if you're going to
They're
get
very
it.
vocal and it's good. It's good. We invite it, we encourage it. I'm like, sometimes I get these crazy emails and I'm like, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like that it's good you're finding feedback quickly. Um, how are you going about finding investors? And how are you thinking about the funding of the company? And then maybe also just how, from like an investor perspective, what makes a good investor for your type of business?
It's a really good question. I wish I had the answer, honestly. So I decided to build in a very unsexy, unloved category by venture capital.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was challenging for me because I started building right as the tide changed. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously 2019, 2018, I came from Casper, right? Like consumer was so hot. Um, and everybody wanted to invest in it. That's no longer the case. Um, so that's been really challenging just because like obviously we were pre-seed, now we're like sort of seed. I don't even think these terms apply to like a consumer apparel startup, but they're what we have, so let's use them. No one's doing pre-seed apparel. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a tech company can go and they have a list of, 100 funds that they can kind of send their deck to and network with and go to events and this and that. Like there is no list.
Yeah.
And I think that's obviously inherently challenging. I started building this, like I said, like as the tide shifted.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't regret it because I think, you know, AI is not going to disrupt wearing clothes. So I think there is like a lot of longevity here, and I really do believe in what we're doing. Um, but I don't know if it's a venture-backed business. So what we've had to do is we've gone the strategic angel route,
Mm-hmm.
um, which lucky for me, I'm building where I know. So obviously, like our cap table is mostly made up of, frankly, people I've worked with or for.
Yep.
It's not really friends and family. It's actually really like coworkers, colleagues, old bosses, their bosses, ex like founders,
Yep.
and people like that. Thankfully,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've been really lucky for that. And to answer the last part of that question, the people who are kind of in our midst and are our investors, they understand the space. Like they intimately know what I'm trying to do and they understand the pain points and they're actually able to help from a network perspective. They're able to help from like a troubleshooting perspective. Like they know what to look out for. And so um, that's it kind of happened this way for me.
Yeah.
But that's basically what happened. And like later stage, like once we get in the like 3 to 5 million in revenue range, we've only been live for a year and a half. And we've grown mostly organically. We haven't run paid ads yet.
It's crazy.
Um, yeah, it's crazy, but we're starting, so it's good. Um, but once we get to those revenue thresholds, then like, private equity and venture actually do start to be interested.
Yeah, there's certain groups that get it. I guess it was one thing I thought was interesting too about your background. You were at very notable brands. So I feel like I would assume my assumption is based on if I were to see like your resume and then going to build this, I feel like the one thing that you would be really good at too is being like a brand builder. Like you understand what are consumers are obviously buying into products, but they're also buying into like the idea of a brand. And I would assume that that might also help you connect with either both the customers and investors because like that's something you understand. You're
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah, it's funny. Brand builder is such an interesting term. I personally feel like I'm more of an operator.
Oh,
But I can see how that marketing piece and that brand piece
yeah.
is so critical to Nell. And I feel as though, but I almost approach that from the consumer lens. Like at the end of the day, I'm building a brand I wish existed for
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like using my operational know-how from having done this on behalf of other people, big and small, to really like bring it to life.
Yeah. I guess the one question I had was like before you dove in, so like before I started my company, I was like wireframing things up. I did Q&A with a bunch of people I would assume would be my customer base. How are you thinking about your early product design? And like were you going out getting samples made or like what's your version of doing like
Yeah.
pre-launch Q&A like market research?
It's a really good question. I worked at Casper for a very talented design strategist. I worked on the team for a time that basically built the service design for our stores and
Oh,
like designed
cool.
it. So I had been lucky enough to sit in on a lot of like user interviews and like understand how that process works. So that was the first thing I did.
Mm,
I did 20 I did a survey and then I did 20 user interviews from the respondents from that survey um, in order to kind of shape the brand and shape the very like initial messaging that we
mhm,
like were working with. Then what I did, and I tell founders this all the time, was on another kind of video thing saying this, and I really believe it like fundamentally to my core. Do something that makes it 100% certain for you that people are going to swipe their credit card for your product. So in my case, what I did, I had these pre-launch previews where I had a full size run made out of every of the three styles we were launching with. We launched them in two washes. I just had like one wash there, but I had one of every size in each style, and I had people try them on and pre-order them. So that was friends and family and friends of friends and whatever. But I did like 10K in pre-orders. I did one in LA, I did one in New York. And frankly, it was like before I order 700 units of anything, like let's make sure it fits somebody else other than me to start. Like that'd be
Yeah.
good. And let's make sure that people are actually willing to buy it, you know? And it wasn't like sign up for a wait list. Like it's not that hard to get people on a wait list. Giving your email address, it's like I do it 100 times a day. But actually swiping your credit card and like no matter how much someone likes you, they're not going to buy $300 jeans like just because they like you,
Yeah.
you know? So it that gave me like the conviction that I could kind of keep going and actually launch this business. And I did it twice in kind of both of my communities. Um, and one, like for the cash flow of it all,
Yeah.
fantastic. It paid for a chunk of my first PO because I only raised $90,000 before the business was launched. So I really
Mhm.
launched it on like a hope and a prayer. Um, and so that money was like critical, but it also just like going into a launch like made me feel like, okay, people actually want this.
Yeah.
And we've continued, and that's continued to kind of be true over the last 2.5 years.
Yeah. That's the greatest advice. Like are they going to purchase? Are they going to buy? I that is very different from I feel like for SaaS is like it's sign up, it's
Yeah.
formalized. It's like sure, in theory, everybody's gonna like, especially if they know you, they do. They want to be nice. They're going
Yeah,
to
of course.
try to tell you what you want to hear, but that's the converting is a great indicator if it's going to work or not, like off the bat. So
Totally.
I
Like,
like
are they
that.
excited enough that they're going to show up somewhere for this thing?
Yeah.
And then once they're there, are they actually going to buy it? And I would say that that's like the foundation of our model. We still do a ton of pop-ups to this day. We did one this past weekend. You know, are they going to come and are they going to shop?
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, so then I guess if you were saying you weren't doing paid ads or advertising, what was your go-to-market strategy then? How did you launch? How were people discovering your brand? How are you finding the customers?
Totally. So I invested in PR up front. We launched with an article in Vogue.
Oh my
So that
gosh.
helped a lot,
What a great
which was
launch
awesome.
pad.
Yeah, we pitched a bunch of people and they picked it up. So that was really cool.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then influencer. So we gifted like the who's who of short gals
I love that.
and they posted. And that's how people found out about us. Um, and then when you get like a major piece of press like that, like it was a full Nell Atelier Vogue article.
That's
So
amazing.
sorry, I think I keep pushing my AirPods back in. Yes, it was a full Nell Atelier press article. So once you get that, what happens is like other outlets want to cover it. And once you start reaching out to like other people and Substacks and influencers and whatever, you like link that article and it's like auto credibility. So I definitely recommend that like launch piece.
Mm-hmm.
That was like critical for us. And then we kind of became this story that the press liked to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of went from there. But yeah, that was kind of our organic strategy. And then we did a big launch event with
Mm-hmm.
influencers and we did a launch pop up for our customers. And we've always treated our customer like an influencer because I
Mm-hmm.
still think our biggest channel is word of mouth
Yeah. Well, I
because we
think
have so
that's
many moms and daughters, friends of like that's kind of how the business has grown.
something that I've been seeing online more often. And just as like a general consumer of all things, but like what was how they do all the brand trips, and
Yeah.
they started saying like the tone around those kind of started changing where they were saying like we don't want to necessarily see like really large only influencers go on like the Tarte
Yeah.
trip, for instance, right? We want to see like any of your fans, like are there regular people that are going to purchase this and make me want to actually like I see myself in that. And I feel like that's like you're kind of doing both, which I like, which is that you're thinking about who are the people who hold influence and do actually push like conversion and sales. But then you're thinking about like the regular everyday consumer, because like I might be able to, as a regular consumer, convert 10 people around me as well. So I feel like you're
A
thinking
hundred
about
percent.
both things, which is great.
We are, and I think like influencers sometimes gets like a bad rap. They're like, oh, they're just getting free stuff, this and that. Like they're a real market, like they're an incredible, very real marketing channel, and they know what they're doing. Like they're not just like winging it,
No.
for the most part. They're actually pushing products that aligns with their brand. It's like an endorsement. You wouldn't say that about an athlete that's like repping Nike.
No.
It's the same thing on a smaller scale. Um, and we really see our influencer relationships as brand ambassadors.
Mm.
Like that's like they're almost like an extension of us. And that's how I view it. So I don't view it as like, oh, I'm just sending, free product into the ether. I'm like, we're culling through a list, we're picking people who we are excited about, who we feel, our customer can identify with.
Yeah.
Um, and that their follower is actually our customer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, what are you thinking about for the next year? What does the next year hold in place? And how are you? I know you said you're just thinking about actually starting marketing, advertising. What does growth look like maybe over the next like 12 to 16 months?
Yeah. Oh my God. More wholesale, more pop-ups,
Yeah.
and starting to like actually look pay to acquire customers, which we have not done. So it's really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see like who that brings in. And I think we have a core grill right now,
Hmm.
but everybody always talks about their core customer, right? We have one just like everyone else does, but I do think that we actually have multiple core customers. We've pursued one very like, wholly. But there's a few out there that I'm excited to tap into also that I think is like kind of ripe for like very good opportunity for us that we haven't reached her yet. She
Yeah.
doesn't know about us
Hmm.
yet.
Yeah. It's exciting.
Yeah, it
What
is.
is like one piece of advice that you would give to either yourself right when you were starting your company or to maybe another founder that's looking to start their company this year? Do you have any kind of words of wisdom?
Just do it. And that's like as Nike said, I feel like I just said that not even on purpose, but just go for it. And like 101 people are going to tell you no.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's like don't take advice. Like advice is great. I take advice all the time. But what I realized is a lot of people, you'll tell them your idea and they'll just be like, oh my God, don't do that. It's too hard. And I mean this like with humility. It might just be too hard for them.
Yeah.
We're all different. Everyone has different skill sets. Like everyone is unique and has a unique set of gifts. And this might be a problem that you're uniquely positioned to start. So I would just be really kind of have a little bit delulu in your own ability. Because if you have the idea and you feel strongly like you should go for it, and kind of block out some of that like negativity and that noise, because it's very easy for someone to sit on the sidelines and be like, oh, no, 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 don't do that, or to, tell you, oh, do this, do that, don't do this when they're not actually like in the grind.
Hmm.
Um, it's much easier to give that type of advice than to actually do the thing.
Yeah.
So it might be worth, there goes the AirPod. It's worth going for it and trying.
Yeah.
Always try. You have to be on the field to win.
I like that. I like the sports analogies.
Yeah, I know. I've like never watched sports a day in my life, but it's okay.
No, it's great. I totally agree. I mean, I think the one thing I kept thinking about, I and like fortunately I could always, most people you can leave and like always go back to what you were doing. I kept thinking, I was like, I could stay in this job, grow, wait for my
Yes,
promotion, wait for my percentage increase of my bonus, and like all these things could have stayed true. I could still always go back to that. So like if things don't work out, at least you lived and know that you gave it your all. You did what you could.
totally. And some days I say this, it's like it's a mess, but it's my mess,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I think if like freedom and flexibility, it's not that it's not hard work, but if those are like core values to you, this is the right path. I mean, that was my thing. It's like I too could have stayed and, in a job and kind of like kept cruising along and doing my thing. It would have been totally fine. And some days I think like, what have I done? Because it's really hard.
Yeah.
I have to say this because not enough people say this. This is so hard. This is the hardest thing you're ever going to do. It's going to challenge you in 100 million different ways you didn't even know possible.
Yeah.
I'm like humbled every single day by being a founder. Um, no one said that to me outright before I did this. Wouldn't have
Hmm.
changed anything because I would have been like, oh no, don't worry, I can do it.
Yeah.
But I think we need to actually like publicly talk about this more and how difficult and like mentally, financially, physically draining this is.
Yeah.
Just so people, they understand. Because I think I didn't understand. It wouldn't have changed my decision again, but this is by a long shot the hardest thing I've ever done. And especially I'm doing it by myself. So it's a little also that's like even more special. Um, but at the end of the day, I value my like freedom
Yeah.
more than the stability and security and all the things that like a regular 9 to 5 bring. So this was the right decision for me. You
Yeah.
have to ask yourself what your values are and if those things are things that you value because it takes a long time to build a company that lasts. So it's not
Mhm.
like, you launch and you're good. The
Yeah.
problems get bigger, just less existential.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree on all fronts. Like,
It just has to be said. It just has to be said. Like
I
this
know.
is
I
hard.
know. I had like two or three other big ideas that I wanted to maybe pursue earlier in my career. And I just honestly, and maybe I always thought maybe I started my company even like a little bit later in my career, but I just wasn't mentally, personally,
Totally.
financially like ready to handle what I know it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you, I was chief of staff or like first employee of a company. And like I saw sort of like I saw a lot like the exposure to how hard things can be, but I was also shielded from a lot of that. So like that was the
Totally.
nice part. It was like a little bit of exposure therapy, but then when you're actually doing it yourself, and I started as a solo founder as well, um, man, the weight of the world is on you. So it
Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
super
It's a lot
heavy.
of responsibility. You cannot be afraid
Yeah.
of being like responsible and like the buck stops with you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a journey. It's a journey for
Hmm.
sure. Where all can everybody find you online? I want to make sure that we'll share this in the show notes and everything. Make sure we can link to you in the right places.
Thank you. So obviously you can find Nell Atelier at nellatelier.com.
Hmm.
You can find me on Substack. I have a Substack called Winging It where I talk about just this because I felt like this type of founder, kind of like very raw, honest founder content.
Yeah,
It felt all very glossy to me. So I give it to you straight on my Substack. And then you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at Nell Atelier.
amazing. Okay, well, we'll link to everything. I'm super excited to watch the journey. I'm so glad I got to meet you. And we'll hopefully hang out next time I'm in New York.
Yes, absolutely. Would love that.
Okay, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Katie. Talk soon.